Good evening. My name is Wendy Greuel. I am lucky enough to be an executive in residence and strategic advisor for Cal State Northridge Nazarian College. I jokingly refer to myself as a recovering politician. I served as a city council member and controller in Los Angeles before coming here, and serve on a few corporate boards and help a variety of nonprofits in Los Angeles. But I so enjoy actually being a part of the Matador family. I serve on the foundation board, and just pleased to see all of you here tonight. We started this, as Courtney will remember, I don't think you were here yet, Chandra, this speaker series many years ago, first time that I came here, and decided it was a great way in which to engage all of you with some amazing people who have had a great pathway to their career. And so I want to be able, today I get to moderate this amazing discussion. And so what I'd like to do before I bring Stacy up is give you a little bit more about it's called the Younes Nazarian Distinguished Speaker Series. Each semester, the business school brings an incredible guest speaker to campus to share information about their career and what their career path was, what their journey was to get to the position that they have. Some of our previous speakers have been Jane Werwan, who started Dermalogica, Steve Rabuchin, who was head of Amazon Alexa, and most recently, Eric Chan, who was CFO of the LA Clippers. We've been really fortunate to have some extraordinarily dynamic, highly qualified, interesting people to be part of this. And I think that you'll see today that we are going to have the same individual here with us. We had a chance to talk, and you're going to be very impressed. So we are going to have a reception to give everyone a chance after this to network and learn more about the alumni chapter, because we have the Nazarian College alumni chapter board members that are here, and to meet some of your fellow Matadors. I do know some of you have class sometimes, so if you have to go to class, we will understand that as well. So now I'd like to tell you a little bit about Stacy Johns and her remarkable life and career. She is the Chief Business Officer of LAFC Partners. She said her son just says she runs the team, and we're going to go with that because she does, which LAFC owns and operates the Los Angeles Football Club in Major League Soccer. They were winners of the 2024 US Open Cup, the 2022 MLS Cup, and 2019 and 22 Supporters Shield. She also oversees all operations and events at BMO Stadium, which really has become a premier entertainment venue in Los Angeles. She was named in 2023 Game Changer by Sports Business Journal and 2024 CFO of the Year by the LA Business Journal. LAFC and BMO Stadium have received numerous honors during her tenure, including being ranked as the most valuable club in the MLS by both Forbes and Sportico, rising from $475 million to $1.2 billion. Recognized as Entrepreneur of the Year by Ernst & Young, named to Polestar's top 5 in worldwide concert series sales, and to Billboard's top 20 global list of best stadiums for touring. In her current role, Stacy's responsible for all operations, business, marketing, strategy, commercial growth initiatives, with a focus on strengthening partnerships that will support her ongoing success. She oversees the club's international operations, serves as the president of the board of directors of Grasshoppers Club Zurich, and managing director of FAC, which I learned today is Wacker Innsbruck, as well as playing a critical role in the Red and Gold Football, LFC's joint venture for global player development with FC Bayern Munich. She was recently elected to the European Club Association Board. I'm not sure how you do all this and still run the club, just saying. But prior to joining LAFC, she was the Vice President of Finance and Human Resources at the Indianapolis Colts of the National Football League, where she oversaw the financial health of the organization with a focus on revenue and managing a staff that oversees day-to-day finance, data analytics, human resources. She began her career, yes, as a certified public accountant in roles with Ernst & Young and Eli Lilly. She currently serves on the board of directors and finance committees for the LA Sports Council, Pro Sports Assembly, as well as the corporate advisory board of the USC Marshall School of Business. And she is an advisory board of the LAFC Sports Foundation. She received her Bachelor of Science degree in accounting, cum laude, from Butler University, and she has 3 children, 19, 17, and 12, I think is what I heard, and really incredible. And I don't know about you, but if I had been an accounting major, which I wish I was, this is the kind of career I'd want to go into, sports and all of that. She is a first-generation graduate. How many of you in this room are first-generation college? Yay, exactly. Great round of applause. So I would love for you to give a great round of applause to our guest today, Stacy Johns. If you're at a sports team, you get to wear jeans and tennis shoes. I'm just saying, you know. So anyways, please have a seat. So you've had a storied career. I mean, really pretty incredible. And, you know, you were talking a little bit earlier about your early life. Did you know that you wanted to go in this career? Was there something that happened in your younger life that said, this is my pathway of where I want to go?
No, actually, is what I would say. And I think when I sit and listen to you, just for you guys all to know in the room, when I listen to someone say all the things that I am doing and the things that I have done, I still have to pinch myself a little bit every day, because I still remember sitting in the chair that you're all sitting in, wondering what in God's name I'd be doing, you know, in 25 years, like I am today. So I definitely did not know what I wanted to do. I just knew that my parents were really proud of me for being the first person to ever go to college. I spent my whole life with my parents telling me, we're going to put you in a different place. We want something different for you. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about, it's kind of a big responsibility, actually, in its own special way. You know, my parents, you know, they wanted it for me, which was amazing, but I also kind of felt a lot of pressure of what that meant for me and what I wanted to do with that. So I really had no expectations of what I wanted. My dad sort of helped nudge me along to business. He said, you know, you seem to be good at negotiating. I think mostly with him.
Is that also arguing? Was that part of it?
Okay, that was a nice way of saying you're really difficult sometimes. And you're like good at, you know, analysis, and you kind of like math. And so maybe you should like edge yourself into finance or accounting. And you know, there's not many women that do that. And he was always very clear with me that just because I was a woman, it didn't matter, and I should be able to do whatever I wanted to do. My mom, you know, said the same. So I was never really thinking about, and you'll hear this a lot as we talk about, you know, the questions you have. You know, I never once thought like, I can't do this because I'm a woman, because I was raised in my house all the time to believe that none of that mattered. And it was all to my own accord, like I could do whatever I wanted to do. So I had a lot of courage that my parents gave me in my house. But yeah, as far as knowing I wanted to be in sports, I had no idea. I played tennis. I was a cheerleader. I did all kinds of things, and I loved sports. I grew up in Indiana. If you've been there, there's not much else to do there. So sports is a big thing there. So we all went to Friday night football when we were in high school, and even when I was in middle school. That was the big thing to do in the small town I lived in, was go to the high school football games and go to the basketball games, which is why I became a cheerleader, because it was just natural. I learned a lot about and loved the sport. And when I was young, the Indianapolis Colts came to town, which was a big thing. And my family, we weren't fortunate enough to have season tickets, but we would go to a game or two every year, which, you know, I became a pretty big fan of that. Was a big Pacer fan, Reggie Miller fan growing up. So I love sports, but I actually never thought about how sports and business went together when I went to business school. By the time I got to business school, I kind of, again, wasn't sure what that even meant or what I wanted to do, but right away, another one of my parents' friends' advice was to get to know the career counselors, like even as a young person. So even if you don't know what you want to do, go spend time with them. They'll help you, whether it's with internships or even just advice. And so right away, they're like, you know, if you're in accounting and if you have no idea what you want to do, which those are both true, you know, you should think about public accounting, because public accounting is a great way for you to go learn industries and, you know, get to know how businesses run and learn a lot in a short amount of time. And so pretty quickly, once I got to school, I was pretty clear that that's what I wanted to do, was go be in public accounting. For how long, I wasn't sure for exactly what that meant. You don't really know what that means even when everyone's telling you it. But that was sort of how I got where I got in school.
How many of you are accounting majors? Do we have many accounting majors here? A few? Okay. And so what skills, so I don't know, I changed my major 3 times, just saying, because I couldn't decide what I wanted to do when I went to college. But what skills did you think that you got in your education that have carried you through today?
Yeah. So I would say for sure, like when I think about one of the things in school that was really important for me was getting as much like real life experience as possible. So Butler actually required 2 internships, but they really encouraged more. So my very first summer, I had an internship at a healthcare company, which ruled that industry out for me right away. Like, no offense, but it was like really stressful. And they put me in a claims office, and I was like doing claims all day, and people were yelling at me. I was like, this is not for me. So it was a very good way to like sort of also rule out things that weren't great. So I would say, I don't know if that was a skill necessarily, but I think one of the most important things for me at school was learning at some level and learning how to learn and learning to be curious. I had a couple professors that really nailed home for me that you will never be the smartest person in any room, most likely, maybe, but it's gonna be very unlikely that you are. So you should always approach life, curiously and with questions. And I would say that's gotten me really far, and that's how I coach a lot of young people. And I actually just spent the last couple of days going back to school. I got accepted into a Harvard executive education program. So I spent the last 4 days at Harvard, which was one of the most incredible experiences I've had in my life. And I actually crushed the second day's Harvard case. I was the only person that cracked it because I'm a curious person. And the professor, it was a case study, and he put us in groups, and it was missing all this data. And I said, it was like, what would the decision be? And she was coming around the room, and I said, can I ask a question? She's like, of course. So she comes over to our group, and I said, so what's really difficult here is this is like kind of it was a racing team decision. It's kind of like a life or death kind of decision we're making here on race or not race. And we have this data, and there's so obviously a data set missing. We're having this piece and not the other. So I'm just curious, is there actually no way to get that data? And she's like, oh no. She opens up a thing. She's like, it's right here. And it was the answer to the case. And our group was the only group out of 50 very smart football, GMs, president of PSG, like all these really smart people across European football. And our group was very happy that I was in it because I was like the nosy, curious person. But that was like one of those things where it's like, yeah, never stop asking questions because they're not dumb questions. People that work for me know that. You can ask absolutely anything. And generally, the more questions you ask, the more you learn and the better decisions you make, the better experiences you have, and just the more you end up knowing about the person or the situation. So I'd say I really learned that from a couple of professors at school. And that's one of which is not necessarily a skill, but very valuable.
And talking to your professors.
Yes, talking to my professors.
We have some professors here, right? You want to raise your hand if you're a professor? They're here in the back. Okay, they're shyly raising their hand. But you like it when the students ask you questions, right? And they come see you afterwards and they talk to you.
So much more fun.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun. So lesson learned today, that's if you take one thing away from you, be curious, ask questions, talk to your professors. So you've talked about people who gave you some advice. Do you have mentors that you utilized over the years, even during college, or others that you would say were helped in your success? Yeah,
I would say, I think actually part of being a first gen for a lot of people is my parents didn't have this universe of high powered professionals that I could network with or ask questions to. So I really did use my professors wisely. And then as soon as I started getting internships, I started using those people wisely. So my first internship in public accounting ended up being Ernst & Young, and my manager at my internship was a woman who also was a first-gen college graduate years before me. She was a senior manager, and there weren't very many women senior managers in public accounting back when I think she was probably the only one. There was one partner and then one senior manager, and it was her. So I gravitated to her, and she really helped me both then, and then I ended up working there. And then even after I worked there, she was a person I would call for advice on all kinds of things, whether it was like I'm thinking about a different job, or I have something going on at work, or I have something going on at home. Like, I mean, it became personal too. And then some of my professors, I would also go back and ask questions to. And then there was one, the very senior like male partner who taught me a really important lesson, which was, because before that, a lot of my mentors were female, because I think there was first I think it's just natural, and then it's relatable. But he's like, you're going to need me too. He's like, you're going to need male mentors. You're in a male-dominated field in finance/accounting, and wherever you go from here, you're going to need us too. So I'm here for you, and I'll help you. And he was a huge help and a surprising ally at times for me. And so for years, I would call him. He's like long gone, retired, but still occasionally messages me on LinkedIn like, you are so awesome. I can't believe you're where you're at. And I'm so glad I was the person that told you to get out of the firm. I mean, so he was the first person working in the firm who said, you got to go. It's time.
And how long did you work at Ernst & Young?
5 years.
5 years. Okay,
Yeah.
so that was kind of your basis of that. I was going to ask you kind of what was your best advice, but that sounds like the best advice is having that mentor and making sure. And people, when they offer to be a mentor to you, they mean it. You know, rarely does someone say, "Oh, I want to be your mentor," and then they go, "Yeah, no, so I didn't really mean it." I mean, they do mean it.
Yeah, and sometimes they don't say it that way. Just people offering that hand out and extending to help, like they want to help you. I mean, people like me, like I want to help people. There's so many people that have helped me along the way, so. I try really hard. Sometimes it takes me a couple months to get through all my LinkedIn's or my email requests from students and young professionals, but I try really hard not to ignore them. Like I will eventually get to you. It doesn't always happen right away, but I have probably at least a couple of Zooms a month with people that are either students or just got out of school or professionals who want to get into sports, who don't know how to get into sports. 15 or 20 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes. It's not necessarily a lot of, in my opinion, my time, but I've had people who come back to me with enough stories over time that I know how valuable that is to people. And there's like nothing more rewarding to me than to hear someone who my 15 minutes somehow changed their trajectory in a positive way. So I'll never stop doing that. And people really, I have a great job. I have a very cool job. People are like, oh my gosh, it's amazing. But it's also really hard and stressful some days. And sometimes those calls are what gets me through my day, is knowing that like I can help somebody and I can change someone's path. That's way more important than, getting the next MLS Cup trophy. Well, as cool as that might be, for me on a human level, I'd much rather help people. And I actually feel like once you get here, it's your responsibility.
That's great. And I think I always say to people, nudge me too. Like, don't be afraid if you don't respond. When you get hundreds of emails a day, to send another one, you might have missed it, and here's what it is, because that really helps, gets at the top of the email. So
it definitely works.
Great advice. So can you tell us a little bit about your job? I described it, in your official bio kind of thing, but tell us what you really do on a day-to-day basis with LAFC and Grasshopper, all the things that you are doing in your life here at LAFC.
I spend a lot of time prioritizing what's most important, obviously, that you can't possibly do all that. And I have an incredible team, an incredible staff. And I would say that it ebbs and flows on how much time I spend on any one thing that's on that list of a million things that I do. I spent a ton of time last year in Switzerland. We acquired the club in January, so I spent my Thanksgiving and Christmas in the garage on Zoom when I wasn't with my family celebrating the holidays. Trying to get the acquisitions done. And then as soon as we left, I think it's January 2nd, after New Year's Day, we got on a plane and went and did the rest of our diligence and purchased the club. And from there, I spent a ton of time in 24 getting that team up and running and getting the right people in place, which actually didn't fully happen, I would say, until March of this year. So I spent a ton of time on Zurich, which was, between hiring, and I don't really do the sporting side over here much other than salary cap, finance stuff. That's part of my day-to-day job. I oversee finance still, and since I am a recovering accountant, I like to call it that, recovering CPA, I do get pulled in that direction a lot. So the owners got very used to and comfortable with me being the person they could go to on feeling very confident on the cash position. So we have a new CFO and she's great, but sometimes they just need also Stacy's blessing. So I still get pulled in that direction, but overseas, I'm a little bit more involved in the player stuff just because it's smaller, and I don't make player decisions, but I am more involved in a transfer decision or a not transferring, and just, again, very, very small staff, very little time. So I've gotten a little bit, it's been really interesting actually to be more involved in that. But last year was a whirlwind of that. This year we now finally have a new sporting director. I have a new chief of staff over there. I have a new chief business officer over there. So I'm down to just like twice a week meetings with Zurich. And on Austria, I've had a great team since the moment we purchased them 3 years ago. Actually started with volunteers. So if you've watched the Wrexham story, it's a little bit like that. 5th division Austrian team, we bought it. Now they're back to 3rd division, on the path to 2nd. And when we got there, it was like volunteer concessionaire, volunteer social media manager, just like these most incredible people who just are so passionate about their club. And now we actually are able to pay them, which is incredible, because before, like, we had no resources. So it's been really fun to watch that one. But that one is, I'm not saying it's on cruise control, but it's a bit like that. It's very organized and managed, and I mostly just do board meetings there, so that's pretty easy. And with LAFC, I'm still most hands-on with, BMO does 250 events a year, including anything from a bar mitzvah, a corporate meeting, all the way to 25 concerts, 25 LAFC matches, 15 Angel City matches, and like everything in between. So that obviously keeps everybody pretty busy. But again, I couldn't do it without, most of my job is managing people. I manage like 115 people. So 8 direct reports here, 3 direct reports overseas. So that's my main job, is like my 11 or 12 direct reports, and making sure that they have what they need from me on a daily basis. And really what's incredible about my job is every day is different. So every day I wake up, there's a few days that are more, Tuesdays are my office day. So Tuesday I wake up at 7, I start my day with like a 7 a.m. call before I get in the car with Zurich, because that's the end of their day. And then I get in the car and drive, and we have all of like our real main in-person office meetings on Tuesdays. And then actually a lot of Tuesday nights I do things like this. I don't have my kids on Tuesdays. Like, I'm divorced, so Tuesday is like, Mondays and Tuesdays are my like late night, like work nights. So if I'm doing events, dinners with partners, that kind of stuff, I try to do them Monday, Tuesday nights. And then the rest of the week, I'm at basketball practice after work, and karate and whatever else I have to do with myself. So I think it's like that's the great thing about this job, is there is no like real day in the life. I'm at BMO anytime there's a major event. So I am at every concert. People are like always surprised by that. I am at every Angel City game. Like, if you're ever wondering where I'm at and there's something on in our building, I am most likely somewhere in that building. I do feel like it's very important at this level to make sure I'm there for my staff, because my staff who's spending the night transitioning the building from one thing to another, or just, having spent the last 7 or 8 or 10 days there in a row, it's important for them to know that I'm there too. And if anything goes wrong, obviously that's also good too for me to be there.
We'll look for you when we're there.
Yeah, I'm always there.
So what soft skills has, that you would think is required, not only in your job, but generally when you're going out into the working world?
Yeah, I think what a lot of you will all bring, and what I felt like I brought from the very beginning, is a really, really, really strong work ethic. My whole motto when I first got out of school was like, no one's going to outwork me. That was like what my dad taught me, and that's what my mom taught me. They were very, very hard workers, and my dad was also like, don't say no to an opportunity, and not everything looks like an opportunity. So and by that I mean one of the first things that I did as an intern, maybe I was even a staff, I think it was when I was a staff at Ernst & Young, it was like, it's kind of a long time ago, I'm aging myself, but the partners didn't know how to type because they hadn't been using computers that much. And so this partner was like, will you dictate emails for me? And the staff, there were a couple of us staff, and some of them were like, I have this, I have that. I'm like, I'll do it. And what that meant was that for a couple of hours every day, I sat with one of the major partners at our firm and listened to the emails he wrote to other people, which was actually pretty interesting. And I learned quite a bit when I was a young person, like how to speak to people, the types of issues he was dealing with, how to address emails, and again, that seemed like a pretty like rotten job to everybody else. Everyone was like, ugh, like why would you want to do that? But then that turned out to be the person who ended up being my mentor. We sat together like for a couple hours every day, and it was natural. And then he would be like, ask me to get me coffee, no problem, get him coffee. And he saw all that. And again, getting coffee also not very sexy or fun, but just, always just being open to doing whatever the job entailed, and having that like can do, yes sir attitude. It really, really served me well. And, And also, I think humility, like being humble, like not being, entitled, and this group probably won't have any trouble with that. But I mean, I am always like, I mean, the fact that you all want to come spend your Tuesday night and listen to me talk about my story still is just like, I can't even believe that, to be honest. That kind of attitude, I think, goes a long way with people, whether you're selling partnerships or whether you're managing a person who's dealing with a hard time, an employee who's dealing with a hard time. Anything you're doing in life, if you like present it with humility and you're listening, listening skills are like critical. I've learned the hard way sometimes that just shutting up instead of talking more, like in plenty of situations, will serve you well, whether you're, in a conversation with an insurance company or you're in a conversation about, a performance review or whatever you're doing in life, like stopping and letting the other person talk more than you learn a lot. And you also often get a better result than if you're trying to talk over people. So it's also great for decision making, because if you're always talking, you're not learning and listening, and then how do you make a decision? So I'd say, some of those are really, really critical. And then, being authentically you, like to me, that's a skill set that has served me well and been very important. I think a lot of women, when I look back when I was first in the NFL, it was hard. I showed up to my first meeting in the NFL finance team, and there were probably 6 or 7 who are now my like peer mentor friends, like women in this room full of like men in finance at the league. And it was really intimidating. And some women took the angle that like I have to be like stern and tough and like strong like a guy and almost like be a dick. Like that was like what I got to do. And I felt like, no, it's the opportunity to like use what skills women have best in that room and showcase why, we don't need to be like that to be successful. So for me, it's always been about just being like who you are, whoever that is. Don't try to, like people will know who you are. Like your real self always comes through. And so the more authentic and true you are to yourself, I feel like the more successful you'll be.
Absolutely. In politics, for me, mine was driving elected officials when they'd arrived. So I actually met Biden, who had been president when he was a senator, because they needed someone to pick him up a long time ago at the airport. And I got to meet him and talk to him. And every time I'd see him, I was like, I'm that young person who drove you, from LAX to downtown, or Xeroxing things. And then I'd read things that I was Xeroxing that they asked me to do.
I also did that too. I did lots of that too.
But I like that you sat there and wrote. That's great.
It was like one of those really awesome experiences. And then, as I've gotten to where I am now, I think the things that, if you ask people that work for me, what's different about me is that when I'm at the stadium, it's like when I first started overseeing the stadium, we've been having trouble getting our calls in for security. So not enough people would show up to, whether it's check tickets, put wristbands on, whatever. And so we're standing in an area where our concessions people have been telling me people have been getting into our clubs, premium club spaces where there's free food and alcohol, and it was costing us money. And I was like, well, security people are telling me they're not getting the calls right, whatever. Anyway, and so I'm standing there like right before the gates are going to open, and I see there's nobody where we need somebody to be checking wristbands, to be going in and out of our club space. And so I'm in a conversation with one of our owners, and I'm like, excuse me, like I am going to check wristbands until we get somebody to man this. And like you would never seen our security team work so fast to find somebody to man that booth. Like they were like, what is she doing? Like she's like checking wristbands. And I was very serious about it, because I'm like, look, we are losing money, people. And like, no, I am not below this. So like that was then the security managers like knew, like understanding that maybe he should step in and do that when people didn't show up. And no one was like, this is below me or beneath me, because like the chief operating officer is checking wristbands. So I think I understand the assignment now. So like, that's something it's like really sticks with me all the time. And it really has been a powerful message for me to people of there's just nothing too small for anyone to do. Because if I have time and I'm willing and will make the time to do that, same with like we had a new accounts payable person start. This is like a year ago. And, her boss was sick, and I could see she was sitting out there frustrated. And so I went out there and sat with her, and I actually hadn't even done that here before, but I had obviously done it in my previous life. And we sat there together and figured out how to do the accounts payable system, which was like, actually ended up being good for me because there were things that I thought were difficult with it. And so then I told the CFO, I'm like, we got to work on this because this is actually hard for me to do, which shouldn't be the case. So a poor new accounts payable person is obviously going to struggle with it. And we've like made some technology changes since then. So every once in a while, also doing things, even in my role now, like enlightens me in a way that I wouldn't have known had I not stepped in and done it.
And you're a better COO because you've experienced that. Yeah, you've done it. And I'm sure the security people after that never had someone not show up because
We've had someone man there ever since, yeah.
That's a good message. Yeah. So you did NFL and now soccer. So what's the difference between the two from your experience?
Yeah, so I spent 16 years in the NFL and like had the most incredible experiences, learned a ton, obviously got to go to Super Bowl. There's obviously a lot of cool things about, everything we do. But the NFL is this, major established league, which can sometimes be frustrating. It's like a Titanic. So if you ever want to make change or do something new, it was like this, whole process. Like, I was never calling the CFO of the league. I mean, maybe I talked to him occasionally if I got a meeting, and I finally got there. But, really impacting change for me was important, and I felt like I learned a lot, and I was getting, occasionally frustrated that, they didn't really want to grow or develop any differently, which actually, interestingly now, I think they've done a ton where it's flag football international. They've kind of gone a whole different way. But when I was there, it was still sort of felt like, at least the club I was at, that, we were happy the way we were. And of course, who isn't happy? They're like it's a giant cash generating machine and, broadcast machine. And it was amazing. I was looking for a challenge though. And so for me, soccer, MLS specifically, was this really young league that is challenging. They needed people to come in and help them change. They need people to innovate. In fact, we have to innovate, or else I think we fail. So it was like a cool opportunity for me to go from a small market in a big league to a small league in a giant market. So it was a really interesting shift for me. So I never really saw it. I had a lot of it's a midlife crisis for Stacy moment for some people, because they're like, why would you leave the NFL? But I think now, fast forward 6 years almost, people are like, wow, that she must have figured that out. She got it right. But I really did want to do something more. I mean, the Colts offered me the same job, the CFO job, and I was like, I'm going to take this other one. So that was not a popular decision in Indiana. But I just said, I'm sorry, I just know here it's a CFO job, and it's probably always a CFO job. And there I was being told, one, I was going to be put in the boardroom, and I was not in the boardroom in Indianapolis. And I was also told that, we're bringing a women's team in, and we want you to help with that, and we want you to learn operations, and once you conquer finance, there's so much more for you to do here with all of your experience. And it just felt like a really good opportunity. And then once I got here and got to LAFC, soccer is a much more inclusive culture, and the fans are different, and the experience is different, and the community involvement, especially with LAFC, was really different. So I was really drawn to the authenticity of the club that I work for, and also drawn to the owners who were we need a woman in our boardroom, we need more women in our club, and almost half our fans are women. So we need your perspective here, and it's missing. And that was such a huge change from the NFL, to be welcomed in the way that I was welcomed, and to welcome the diversity, to be open and want it. It just was a completely different thing. And I do think the NFL has gotten better in the 5 years since I've left. But I love global football, and it's just become, for my family, if you ask them, Stacy at the Colts versus Stacy at LAFC, I'm a different mom, I'm a different person, because it has changed, how I feel about myself because of how I'm treated and how I'm respected, and just generally how much more community focused we are. It's changed them, my family, because they also are the same. They've been part of it. They show up at community events with me. They are part of LAFC. They feel part of LAFC in a way that they never felt before, and that was really important to me.
I think I want to be her kid, so you go to all the games and you go to, that would be fun to be able to do that. And the relationship, Angel City came to BMO after, it was after LAFC, and so that kind of partnership is really important in seeing a lot of sold out. I know they're very always excited about the fact that they have a lot of people who come to that, the women's soccer as well as the men's soccer.
Yeah, no, they do an incredible job. And that we signed the lease with Angel City like 6 months after I started. So right when I started, and if anybody has ever heard Julie Ehrman speak, she's also she's one of my best friends now. So, but she's incredible, and what they've built is absolutely incredible. And I feel like as a woman who's always worked for men's team, Julie allowed me to be just a tiny part of their movement, which has been like one of the more rewarding things for me as a person, because I think it was, when they first came in, first time they were being a tenant, they're a brand new club. It was the first tenant we'd ever had. So we'd never had a tenant before. And then they were an all-female leadership team, and my stadium staff is like all men. And so that was before I was running the stadium, and my boss at the time was really smart because he could see it all happening, and he knew how curious I was about stadium operations. And he's like, this is what we're gonna do. Like, Stacy, is going to take over the tenant relationship with Angel City. So we sat down and had dinner with Julie, and he's like, this is your person. Like, she's gonna make sure when you have roadblocks, when you have issues. And it was pretty high stress for the first year, really, dialing in, allowing them to have the experience they want, but knowing that we paid and built the stadium, there's only so many things you can change and do in our stadium. It was tense and it was heated, but I think if you ask any of their staff now, they really feel like I was an advocate for them. And I was from time to time, like, as I had to look at, the people on our staff and be like, this is our opportunity to bring a women's team to LA in our building, and we have to do it the right way. I want you to be proud. So there are times we're going to give a little for them, and by doing that, I think we allowed them to be more successful, and I think they know that. And I feel like I was a tiny part of it, and it was really, really super rewarding.
You use the word curiosity again, which is good. I've seen that. That's the theme. Curiosity, asking questions.
Yes.
So what was one of your biggest challenges that you had, and how you solved it? Is there one thing that comes to mind?
I would say there's one theme that comes to mind, and that is like dealing with failure. As a person who is super driven and grew up with my parents pushing me to be successful, everything I ever wanted. I got into all the colleges I applied for. I just didn't have I was fortunate. I didn't have a ton of failure. It wasn't all easy, but everything I really, really wanted, I felt like I got, and I got good grades, and it wasn't super difficult for me. And so when I got into the working environment, and it's like you have to fail to be good, to be successful. You have to fail. And for me, learning and figuring out how to fail and not taking it personally or being a disaster afterwards or letting it affect everything else I was doing, and then allowing others to fail and learning how to deal with that and how to react to it as a manager was also another challenge for me, because once I got used to my own failures and how to deal with those, then it was like how I react to other people's failures is gonna help them succeed or fail too. So when somebody, messes up and I lose my mind, obviously no one's learning from failing. That is a very bad situation. But it's also really difficult to keep your cool when big things go wrong in some of these jobs. So I would say that was one of my bigger challenges. I would also say, I do think being a woman at the beginning in the NFL was really hard. And there were days that, if you asked my ex-husband, there were days I came home and I was like, I just quit. I can't do this anymore. I'm not in the room. I was the person that should have been in that room today. I didn't get to make that decision. I didn't even get to be asked. They had the meeting in the weight room and they're like, you can't go there. There were things that happened, and it was so frustrating. And how I got through that was I started making friends in different places. So I got to know the director of operations on the football side, who typically we didn't have a lot of fraternization with. But I realized that he was this gatekeeper to a lot of things. And we're still good friends. We both left and we're still good friends. But he would be in a room and he would be like, we should ask Stacy. Even though I wouldn't be invited to that room, he would invite me in the room. And that's what I learned, is that overcoming that challenge of being a woman required me to get aligned with certain important men that worked in the office, and they would bring me in the room even if I wasn't actually there. And so that was how and then what happened later was also great, was Jim's daughter at the time, so Jim Irsay owns the Colts, his daughter graduated and started working for the club. And she actually came to me because she was interested in the finances. And then we became close. And then later, she was the one that brought me in all the rooms, which was great. But until she got there, which was probably like, I don't know, 9 or 10 years in, I was relying on the vice president of ticketing, the director of operations, the head of partnerships. I made all these relationships by how? Like through finance. Like I would say, okay, let me help you with your budget. Let me help you learn how to do what you're doing in a different way. And then I was learning their business, and then I was this useful person to them that they wanted to bring me along into meetings or partner trips or, just like anything and everything. And so that was how I overcame it, but that was really, really difficult. It's like, feels like so long ago now, but I owe a lot to, and it was like a lot of work to make the relationship, but I do owe a lot to a couple of men that I worked with alongside with that were kind of like peers of mine at the time, who really weren't afraid to bring a woman and her opinion into a room that she wasn't invited to.
They were your advocate.
Totally my advocates, yeah.
But you had the, chutzpah to kind of be in the room or be present.
Yes.
And I think it is, even today when I have a college student, and he had an internship and he was COVID and said, well, why don't I can do this internship at home. I can do it and I said, no. The interaction you have with people, the fact that you are sitting in an office and the CEO may walk by and he's thinking, I have a project. Oh, I'm going to go to that guy because he's here.
He's sitting right here.
He's sitting right here. I don't have to type an email or do whatever. So being present,
huge,
is a big part of that. So has technology changed your business? I would say, just technology generally, but of course AI and all of those things are happening. How's that impacting your business? Yeah,
I think in sports, especially both on and off the field, technology changes our business. I'm not like every day, not to be dramatic, but it's just like it's always changing. And I think young people are going to drive that to change even faster and faster over time. When I look at how my son consumes our product versus how even my 19-year-old daughter consumes our product, it's very different. My son would like to watch some form of Red Zone like 24 hours a day and just watch the dunks and NBA and watch the goals in our sport. And he just consumes it completely differently. So how we think about marketing to those people and the technology we use to do that is very different. How you think about, a fan going into a building. Nobody wants to go to a building that has friction now. So getting the technology where you can walk through the scanners, you don't have to take everything out and do all that. And, using your phone to pay, using your face to pay, like all these, all these frictionless things so that fans can just like move about and experience.
What do you call it?
Frictionless?
Frictionless.
Yeah, frictionless, yeah. So my chief technology officer is actually incredible, and he's also very curious. Good, like another one there. He would love to be a guinea pig for any technology. I don't let him do all of it because sometimes it's a little bit scary. But we are known to like pilot things for the first time with whether it's ticketing systems, F&B, through like our merchandise stuff. He's always coming up with new stuff and bringing it to me. And a lot of things we've been able to get technology for either free or very inexpensively for testing it out and being first to market. So we've done some of that with Apple and with Ticketmaster, and it's been really successful. And then if you look at what's happening with AI, I just finished a 4-week boot camp with Jeremy Utley, who's a Stanford professor. If you've never heard of him, he was awesome. He did 4 weeks with our entire staff, 1.5 hours a week plus some homework, and really trying to teach from the bottom up in our organization, saving 8 hours a week. That was his whole goal. Like even if everybody on my team saved 8 hours a week, that would be actually, think about 115 people saving 8 hours a week. And I have a couple of people who feel like that has happened. Others, like we might have some work to do, but I personally feel like I probably got 8 hours a week out of it, which is pretty good when you think about how much time I need and spend. So, AI, and it's from the smallest things to the biggest things like my accounting staff. We have, when you think about 250 events in a building and all the different types of events, and all the other things we're doing with international, whatever, the coding for our invoices is difficult. So our accounting team, after going to 2 weeks of AI training, started working with the trainer on building an AI bot to code. And we pay 2 people to do that right now, and like not that I'm going to get rid of them anytime soon, but like if they could do something more meaningful than code, first of all, their job would be more fulfilling, and it'd probably be more accurate, because right now we have a lot of errors too, because it's very difficult. So that was like one example of a small thing that came out that won't be so small, because right now they're coding. Department heads are also like checking the coding. All these people are part of this process. And I'm like, if AI can do 50 or 60 or 70% of that, and only 30% is left for our staff, I mean, it'd be a big win for people. So just little things every day.
Well, it's a big challenge even in education about using AI, and on the good side of it, because no one would use it to write their papers, right? Because we can tell now.
No one would ever do that.
No one would do that. But how many of you use AI in some form or fashion?
Yeah, and I think
Even you, Courtney, in front here. Sorry, I'm counting myself as an older person in that. Yes.
I think
Not you.
I think some of this, like the things that I hear from people in our industry is, I think there's this big fear of some of our younger staff, like medium to young staff, that is going to replace everyone. And what I've been trying to teach them all is like it is not going to replace you. However, if you don't learn how to use it, that person that knows how to use it is going to replace you. So it's not about AI replacing people fully, because we still need people to do these jobs. I actually want our marketing people to use it. I know right now they spend time doing things that are like up on our story for like a day. And I'm like, why are we spending any time doing that stuff? Like that is not what our brand is. I mean, of course that has to be cool sometimes, but you have all these different AI platforms that can generate like, game day posters and stuff like that. Like I want the brand team to be thinking about the next like really big cool idea that like actually generates revenue and changes our image and like gets people engaged and brings in more fans, as opposed to like a match day poster. So, and they are all about that too. So I've convinced people now, like, use AI. Think about AI as like what is the least favorite thing that you do? Like what is like this boring, mundane part of your job? Let's try to figure out how to get rid of that. So that then the really fun parts of what you do every day, let's do more of those things, which are also better for the organization, because more fulfilled employees are better employees. And, we're just going to get a whole lot more out of people, and they're going to stay longer. So, yeah.
All right, that's a good. Okay, Chandra, she's giving you the direction there on that. So when you're, building and leading sports teams, I mean, that's very different than being an accountant. But there are common challenges. If you've mentioned you have a lot of friends within the other, whether it be other sports teams that are soccer teams, but also NFL or maybe basketball or the other kinds of things. What are some of the common themes that you see within the industry necessarily for sports teams and the kind of challenges that they face?
I think, we talked about a little bit, but like you have to worry about being relevant. Like being relevant is a big thing if you talk about people who run sports teams in LA, especially in a market like this. Like it's not just the sports teams you're worried about. It's like the movie industry. You can go to the beach. You can go to Disneyland. There's like so many things in the entertainment world, like fighting for people's like, eyeballs and, dollars and whatever. So I think the common thing for me, and whether it's sports or, and really like any entertainment in this industry, is like fighting to stay relevant. And of course, like winning, especially in a market like this, is also really important. I mean, LA likes winners. Some markets, where it's a smaller market and you only have one basketball team, you only have one football team, like you have a little bit more loyalty, whether you're winning or losing. It's more part of the community. Here, when you have two of everything, almost literally, I do think winning is like super important. So that is something that's different than having like a total corporate job. Is you don't have to worry about this like on-field performance that you have no control over. So like you literally sit in my chair and you just hope that you are getting it all right, because I have no control over the technical side of our business. But I think one of the things that one of my mentors taught me in sports, like when I was really young, was we can't control what's happening on the field, on the pitch, on the court at all. However, we need to be poised to take advantage of it. So like when it's really great, like you need to have all of your systems and processes and plans ready to like take on like and expand and grow the revenue, grow the fan base, grow the audience. And when you contract like on the field, you have to know how to continue to keep that audience engaged. But like it is really on you to not, you can't necessarily like live and die on winning and losing, but you can be prepared to take advantage of it. So that was always the advice I took on, because I used to work with people who would be like, well, don't ask me to grow anything this year because we don't look very good. And I'm like, no. Like, no, that's over there. We don't worry about that. So we have to worry about this. And you might be right. Like, this might not be our year, but like, we are still we still have the same plan in place. This is our plan. And maybe we'll all be surprised something great's over here. And if you have this attitude of like, this is not our year, like, you will not be ready for what's coming when it is our year. So I think just like really changing people's perspective. So I think that's like a really common theme / challenge across all sports, is like trying to get people out of this mindset of like, when your team sucks, like you get to suck as a front office too. Like, it's just like, okay, all right, we're gonna give up this year, we're moving on. So like really keeping morale up when your team isn't playing well is hard.
I had to define a successful person, I would put you in that category. And so, but how do you define success for yourself, and what motivates you to succeed, to continue to grow? Because I think if we say stagnant, obviously that's not good.
Right.
And so what defines success for you, and two, what motivates you?
What motivates me, I think, is a couple things, but learning. Like, I mean, we've talked about this curiosity thing. I really love to learn all the time. Like, if I am not learning and I am not growing, that is when times get difficult for me, and I have a really hard time actually even defining success, thinking about success, knowing what to even do with myself. So the times where I get bored is when I have to really start reflecting on why and what I can do to change that, and making sure I can figure out what's next. And sometimes that didn't mean like, some people were like, oh, it's so easy when you're just getting promoted all the time. Like, I was the director of finance for like 10 years. So there was a lot of people that would not have done that. I didn't get promoted for like 10 years. So I was occasionally frustrated about that, but instead of dwelling on it, because there was just no changing it, my boss at the time was pretty hard set on like, your next move is like this, and it's not time for that. And I was like, all right. But I would go to another department, and I would like learn things. And so that, for me, success was like taking on a new challenge, learning how to, and like sort of like in my mind conquering it. Like that is me, success. As far as like what drives me more today though, and what drives me more and more like every day now is, I mean, my kids. Like, anybody who has kids, like, it's impossible not to have your kids motivate you. We talked about this a little bit before we came up here, but having your 18-year-old daughter write an essay about how she thinks she can be an engineer in a man's field because her mom has conquered a man's field and she's watched it firsthand. Like, reading those kind of things are what makes me feel okay about, having some guilty late nights and, being stuck in, an airport and not getting home for something for one of her, dance concerts or whatever. Although I did miss very little, but occasionally like things would happen and I have to miss it. And I think what makes me want to be more successful is like, I want my kids to be proud and to feel like, what I gave up some things with them for sure, and that it was all like worth it. And I would also say, for me, what motivates me, I do this a lot. I speak a lot. I go to classes at USC a couple of times a year. I do online classes at a couple of different colleges. And for me, giving back to students is another big motivation for me. Like, if I can get a couple of people, even one person in a room to do something that they heard me say it, they like, 5 years from now are like, oh, I heard this person say I should ask questions, and I ask questions, and it made, I got to this next place. Or, someone calls me. I literally had a student in a mentorship program that I mentored, who he did not tell me this, but the person who was running the program told me later. He had a medical condition, and he stopped taking his medicine like a couple of weeks before he started this program, and was in a really bad spot and tried to drop out of the program. And she's like, please just stay in it. And his parents were like trying to get him to stay in it. And then he had his first meeting with me, and like I had no idea this was going on, and I just treated him like a normal kid, had no idea. And he was great. He asked so many questions, like, this kid is like so smart. I told this, and she's like, he was really engaging with you. I was like, yeah, totally. And then every week we met for the whole summer, and at the end of the summer, his parents told me that he started taking his medication again. He's like now an intern like at a big giant global football brand. I did not help him get that. He got that on his own, but he still emails me. And so I actually was like feel like I changed someone's life. And that was like, I mean, I drove home crying that night, just thinking, wow, like somebody, because I know what it's like as a mom to not be able to get through to your kids and to be like a complete stranger that somehow, and I went back to think like, what did I say to him? I actually don't know. But I said something, and whatever it was really changed the trajectory of his life. And I like will always know that. And just like having that one time, even if I spoke 500 times and it was just one, it would be worth it to me. And so like that definitely drives me every day. And I would say the last piece is like, I have a lot of women that work for me now, and they tell me all the time how important it is that I'm here, and you know what I do for them, what I have done for them, what I will continue to do for them is like meaningful. And that to me is, you know, I call it like carrying while you climb. Like, but if you're climbing by yourself, it's not the same. But if you bring people up with you, it's just so much more meaningful for you.
That's great advice. So what advice would you give to a CSUN student who's sitting here that might want to follow in your career path?
I think it's like, obvious, I would tell you to ask a lot of questions, but also just to never say no to that opportunity. You just never know where it's going to take you. And, you know, we talked about it, you know, whether it's like driving somebody, getting a coffee, making copies. But I think, and it's also, I would also say, don't get too set on one path. I really thought that I wanted to be the first C-level woman in the NFL and Indianapolis Colts. Like, there's still never been a C-level executive that's a woman at the Indianapolis Colts. Like that was, and I had that opportunity, and I had to look at it and go a different direction. But like, I decided that another direction was necessary for me as a person for like, to the whole point of growing. Like I was gonna sit at a place after 16 years and like I was afraid I was gonna stop learning. And like that really scared me. And like now that I'm sitting here today, it was completely the right decision. But I'd say, you know, I have some people who are like, I wanna be in sports so bad, I'm never doing anything else. Like, don't do that. Like, take that other opportunity because you never know when it circles you back to where you're going, and just continue to like make the relationships. But I think there's a lot of times students get really set on a path and get really disappointed when that path doesn't happen. And I think one of the benefits I have of like my journey is I really never had, I mean, I did for a while get really cemented in that, like, this is what I want. But I think allowing yourself that open mind to like let sort of things happen the way they are. And, you know, also just like, you should love what you do. Like, you should wake up every day. And, you know, there's bad days, of course. Like I would be lying if I said there were days I like don't wake up and be like, I just like want to go to Hawaii, like, and just be done. Everybody has those moments, but I think you really should, you know, you work a lot. You should love what you do. And that it's translated for me. And when you've asked my kids, like, what was different from Indiana Stacy and California Stacy, it's that I love what I do. And I liked what I did, and I was happy most of the time, but I actually like love it today. And it's a totally different kind of feeling and relationship with me, with my work and my family.
We love the California Stacy, so let's give her a great round of applause.
I'm going to add one more thing, which is like to take risks. And I'm an accountant, so I'll say calculated risk. But this was not a calculated risk. Like, I had actually never stepped foot in the state of California when I took this role. Fun fact, took this role in COVID, so never got to meet people in person. So I landed in a plane in California for the first time in my entire life on my first day of work. So it was a giant risk, which is why some people were like, you're having a midlife crisis. Because I had 3 kids and 2 dogs and a whole thing. But you got to take risks, because had I not taken this risk, I would obviously not be sitting here today. But my career would not have taken the path that it took. And it's been just like, you know, greatly successful and very personally satisfying.
So I've heard curiosity, take risks. There's not one straight path. Your experiences make who you are. I worked in government, never thought I got recruited to work at DreamWorks Studios. I knew nothing about the entertainment industry. And all they wanted to know was I knew something about government, and they didn't. So having different experiences is a great part of being able to be competitive in that market, because you're bringing new ideas, new different things. And I think that's, Stacy, your career has done that. So we now want to ask you all to ask some questions. Jordan has microphones, so don't be shy. Oh, great. Oh, good. Okay, right here. Right, the microphone's one here. Okay.
Hi, my name is Adriana. I'm actually an alumni, graduated in 2018. I went to the first LAFC home game, and I loved it ever since. I'm hooked. And right now, I'm looking to see if I can get back in for the master's program in accounting next year, so I'm aiming for that. Right now, I manage a small team in the accounting department of developers in LA. And something that I come across sometimes is that my team sometimes has like imposter syndrome. And so I wanted to ask you if you've experienced that with your teams and how do you get them out of that?
Yeah, I think it's really hard. And I definitely experience it. I'm sure most people here have experienced it in some form or fashion. But I think, and that's actually a hard one, I think, to get employees to get out of that mindset. And I would say openly talk about it is my best advice, and like try to help them understand. Maybe if they understand that maybe you have your own personal experience you can share with it and help them understand that it's completely normal. Most people have it. I think she said I got elected to the ECA board, which is this incredibly powerful group of European football players. And I was like, how did I get here? Why? And when I was getting ready to have to stand up and speak, which I didn't know I was doing until 15 minutes before. So this whole 15 minutes before I'm standing up to speak to why would you elect me for this board? Which again, I wasn't prepared for at all. I was like, what am I actually going to say? Because why am I here? So I had to really pull it together in 15 minutes to stand up and say, I'm here and I'm different. I'm a different candidate. You all have years of experience, whether playing football, what have you done? And if you want another person on your board that looks like that, don't vote for me. That's not who I'm at. And so I actually had to tell people who I wasn't, because I was really sort of struggling with it. So I think the more you're open and talk about things, the better is what I would say.
Right, I like that. Because they're doing a good job, but they don't believe in they are. So I have to remind them.
Yeah, no, it's hard. Yeah.
Thank you. Your outfit is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
I think I saw someone back here. Yeah, back there. And then, over there first. Jordan will go there and then to this gentleman.
This is a bit of a different question, I think. To what extent would you say operating on an international sport like soccer, how is that different in terms of operations, finance, et cetera, than acting in a primarily American sport like football? Are there differences? And if so, what?
Yeah. So, they definitely are different. And I would say for me, a couple of things that really stand out different is the legal aspects of working in other countries versus our country. HR practices are very different. So that piece has been really difficult. So here, we're working, and if you have someone that you're like, okay, they're not a right fit, we do performance evaluation, you sit and talk to them, and you either counsel them out or you fire them. In the countries we're currently operating in, none of that is actually possible. It's you have to give them a 3-month window. They can then claim sick time and whatever. And there's been all these interesting policies and politics around the HR side of the business that have been very different for us. I would say the finance and accounting piece is fairly similar, although obviously I didn't remember a lot because it's been years since I did my accounting classes. The differences between, international accounting practices and GAAP, which now I'm sort of relearning a little bit as I'm dealing with the Swiss and Austrian club. And also we have this joint venture in Germany. Fortunately, I have more help over there to get me to help. I don't have to get as involved in the day-to-day, but the Swiss company, I'm literally on the phone call with the CFO over there trying to work through how I'm going to deal with this tax issue or this audit issue here that's different from there, and what is the most strategic advantage. And he's also having to worry about US GAAP, and he hasn't had to worry about that. So that piece has been different. But I'd say a lot of what we do is actually on operational piece is fairly transferable back and forth, other than the HR practice and legal side. Those pieces have been very difficult, and those are obviously different in every country you go to. And the other piece that's been harder, I know, for our player side is the politics of the getting visas and moving players around. all very different in Switzerland than actually almost any other country in Europe. So that was a piece when I was asked to do all this due diligence. I did all the great financial diligence I know how to do. I had no idea I need to be doing diligence on how you apply for visas and like all those things. So we definitely missed that one, and that one hurt us a lot sporting wise in the first 6 months, but now we've sort of figured it all out. But that was a big adjustment for us in the first year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's a question over here, and then we'll go to the guy in the back.
Hello, my name is Shannon Hendra. I am a huge LAFC fan.
Awesome.
And I am so thankful that you guys signed Younes on. Yeah, right in time. I do have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
For someone who works primarily with understanding and processing data, what technical skill from the finance perspective of the business would you recommend them to learn? And the second question is, you mentioned that you are always traveling to different countries like Zurich and everywhere else in the world. How many languages do you speak? And do you think that speaking many languages helps?
I don't speak any other languages, but I wish I did. That's a great question, because if I could go back in time, people were like, what would you go back to school and learn or whatever? Languages is what I would say. Because speaking German right now would be hugely important. I have picked up a few words here and there, so we joke around about that from time to time. And I feel like ever since I've lived here, I should know Spanish. And a lot of our players, like when I first got here, it's more diverse team right now, but when I first got here, like most of our players spoke Spanish most of the time. So, I mean, they obviously all mostly speak English too, but like it would have been nice, and I know our technical director speaks Spanish, and that's like really, really helpful. As far as the skills on the finance side, I think, like analytical skills, the more you can do to sharpen your analytical skills, like everybody in every role at this point needs to know how to analyze data. I mean, that's the crazy part, is like you actually can't sit in marketing anymore if you can't analyze data. It's so different than when I first started. So I think really everybody knows what data is, everybody looks at data, but the more you can learn how to use data, like, and the more cases you can, and studying you can do on different types of scenarios and how you slice data and how you like analyze it, that to me is super valuable. And if I have someone that can work for me who can do that, like that is a very good skill, if that makes sense.
Okay, of course, thank you.
Yeah.
Gentleman in the back, right behind you. Oh, sorry. Okay, yeah. Did you still want to ask a question too in the back? After you. This gentleman, then we'll go back to you.
Hi. It was great listening to you tonight. It sounds like you've had a great career, and I'm sure you've had to sacrifice a lot. What part of your job makes those sacrifices worth it?
I mean, I think it's a couple things. It's really, really the most rewarding to see my team be successful. So to watch people that work for me win, whether it's like they win an award, they get a promotion, they have a baby. Like watching the people that work for me every day have like great success in life. There's like not much. It's not like having kids, but it's like, it's a similar emotional feeling for me sometimes when I get a phone call from someone, whether it's like, I'm getting married, or I got my CPA, or, whatever like life milestone they have. And I would also say in sports, you get also the benefit of like winning. Like I've been pretty fortunate to work for some pretty incredible winning teams. So going to Super Bowls, taking my family to Super Bowls, taking my, having like my dad, my brother, and my son came to MLS Cup, and anybody who's an LAFC fan, like, was one of the greatest games of all time. And I've been to a lot of great games. But having them there with me for that moment, that's the kind of things that like really make it worth it. Because you're right, like I work a lot. I would also say, like, it sounds like sort of cheesy, but like making my family proud. Like I said at the beginning, it was a big weight to me, like being the first person that my parent, in our family that like could afford to go to college, and having that weight of like success of like, we gave you this gift, like, what are you gonna go do with it? So I think, watching, like, getting a note from my mom or dad, or like my aunt or uncle, or someone who says like, we just saw you won this award, or we saw your team did this, and like, we're so proud of you. like, again, it might sound kind of cheesy, but like I'm a family girl and like that does matter. And then ultimately, like, you know, the way it's made my kids look at me and the light, you know, like she said at the beginning, my son will like fight you if you don't believe him that I like run LAFC in his mind. He's had a few of his friends and like coaches like challenge, like, what does your mom actually do? He's like, she like runs the whole thing. Like, don't ask me any questions. Like, so that also is pretty rewarding. And I think, you know, I talk about this with lots of people when we interview people and I tell them like, you know, you're going to work a lot of hours. There's no joke about that in sports, and you're probably not going to get paid like the industry standard because also that's the thing in sports. But what you're going to get is like you're going to get to your family can be part of this. That's like the biggest surprise to me is like, and I think I bring my family so that I can encourage my staff to bring theirs. So when at Sonny's press conference that we just had, I think there were 6 of us or 7 of us who all have kids that are 12 to 13. We all brought our kids with us. And I called my staff that work for me and said, I want you to, like, Vanessa, I want you to bring Izzy because I know how much she loves this. Like don't take her to school, bring her to the press conference and come. And her daughter sent me a note and was like, it was just like so, you know, kind. She's like, that was like the coolest day of my life. And I'm like, wow. Like, and it was just, it's like nothing for me, but it's important to me that just because I am at the top and I can bring my kids, like wherever you sit in an organization, like I try to make it sure like they feel like they also can bring their kids to appropriate things too. So it's not like just a one-sided thing. Like we are a family at LAFC and like everyone's part of it.
Thank you. I'm a Chelsea fan, by the way, so I'm sorry we beat you in this one.
So the gentleman in the back with the stripes.
I sort of feel like Chelsea, you know, won 2-0 and we only got beat by 2. So we were just almost right there, you know? I don't know. I've rationalized it.
Yeah, it was close. I watched it.
Yeah.
My name is Hassan. I want to thank you for coming here and sharing your experience and expertise. My question was that it seems like you had such a jump from the NFL to come into a place that you'd never been. So I was wondering how that opportunity even presented itself and what your thinking was on that or how you were able to make that transition.
Yeah, no, it's a great question because I wasn't looking. Obviously, I was like super focused on becoming the CFO at the Colts. But this is another case of like making relationships and getting to know people. Because I was responsible for HR in Indy, I had relationships with recruiters, not for myself, but like for either hiring people or sometimes recruiters get to know you so that if they are trying to place somebody, I can be like, oh, my friend's looking for a job, so I can help a friend find a job. So I have become friends with several recruiters, and this woman called me, and you gotta remember this is like the dead of COVID. And she's like, hey, what you need to do is go take this job in California. And I'm like, you're crazy. But she was like, no, I've been listening to you. Wait, don't hang up on me. I've been listening to you. You tell me that like you want to make change, you can make change. And I know how hard it is to be a woman over there. And like, I've met these people and they're different and they have this culture and like, they don't know they need you either because they're looking for someone who's from California. I'm like, why are you calling me? I'm like, what are you talking about? And she's like, no, but they don't know they need you and you don't know that you need to go there, but I just need you to talk to them once. Just please talk to them once. And so I got on the phone with them and did some research about him, and 3 phone calls in, I was sold that like I needed to go somewhere where the culture was very different. And the other piece, I will tell you, is my family was important. And so I went to my oldest daughter, who was 15 at the time, which is a really difficult time to move in the middle of COVID. And I said, so Mom has this opportunity and it would mean we would move. And she's like, soon? I'm like, yep, yeah, like probably soon. And she's like, where? And I tell her and she goes, yeah, I'm kind of getting tired of being here. I was like, wait, what? And she's like, yeah, like I just think we need something new, Mom, and like this COVID stuff and whatever. And if you get it, I'm in. And then I talked to my younger daughter who was 13, and she's like, you know, what does Vivian think? Which is her older sister. And I'm like, well, I don't want to tell you that yet. I want to know what you think. She's like, well, I don't want her to be upset, but I kind of want to go. And I was like, well, that's good because she wants to go too. I'm like, but I still don't have the job. And so then it became this whole thing of like, I got to get the job. And they were really stressed about it. My son was really little, so we didn't talk to him about it. But my family really was important and they wanted to come too. And I would say that actually looking back on it, and I called some of my mentors when I got this call, and I said, is it crazy for me to, this is just completely crazy. And I had 2 friends tell me, like, no, like change is like part of life, and your kids need to know that. And the sooner your kids can adapt to change, the better off they'll be. And so even though it feels really hard to move your kids in high school, especially during COVID, like I think they'll appreciate it. And if you ask my oldest daughter, like her life trajectory is completely different, I think, since we moved to California. They absolutely love it here. She now went to University of Washington because she was like, she so much loved the change of coming from Indiana to LA. She wanted to do it again. And that's what life's all about. And so I feel like I gave my kids a gift that I didn't even realize I was giving them. I gave myself a gift, but in turn gave them a gift to like what is like experiencing life, like taking a risk, doing something new, meeting new people, and they really learned to adapt to change in a very difficult time during COVID. So it turned out to be a great decision, but in hindsight, like a bunch of people were looking at me like I was a lunatic. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna go to this guy. And
This
then-
is
and
going to
we're
be
gonna
our
go to-
last question, Wendy.
Okay.
I'm sorry, where was the
Hi, can you hear
hand?
me? Oh, hi. My name is Star. I just had a really quick question about how you were speaking before about if you, AI won't replace you, but the person who knows AI will replace you. So I have worked in like several jobs that have to do with like sports that have internships in there as well. And I do notice in a lot of times, like in my positions, I've kind of been a little bit pushed out because of AI, because I have more of the communication standpoint. And so a lot of the jobs that I've worked with dealt mostly with football players. So I know like what you mean by like how hard it is to be like the NFL and like the rules and things that they have. So my question for you is, when you have situations like that where you feel like you may not be deserving of that position, or you feel like you may be looked over, like, is there a red flag that you notice before you move on from that path? Or was that just a gut feeling that you decided that like, okay, this isn't for me, I'm going somewhere else?
Yeah, I would say it's a really great question because I have no regrets because I'm not a person that likes to regret anything. It's just not the right idea. And when I think about decision making, like my gut is part of it because I think it's important that it's there, but I also make sure I like add data, question, reasoning on top of it, and when I possibly can. But I also tell a lot of young people this, like if you are unhappy or there are red or orange or yellow flags around you, like it's probably time to do something different. And I think I had some of that going on, like let's call it a couple of years before I actually decided to go. And then I wasn't even deciding to go. Like someone called me and told me I should go. Otherwise I probably could still be sitting there. I actually don't know, which is frightening in its own special way. But I think you should be comfortable in your job. You should be confident in your job. You should want to get up and go to work every day and be there. And if there are things, to your point, that are like, I'm not respected, I'm not valued, this doesn't feel quite right, like it may be really hard to think about, but I think you owe it to yourself to think about something different. That's how I feel about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If I had to describe Stacy today, I would say successful, authentic, curious, family-oriented, inspirational, and giving, and a mentor to so many. And so we want to thank you for, don't leave yet because we're going to have our dean, okay, who made this all happen, so do not leave yet. He's going to say a few words. But I would love for you to give a great round of applause. So an extraordinary leader, Stacy Johns. Thank you. Yeah, are you going to come up here? Yeah. Oh, wait, I think he's going to come up here. Are you going to come up here? You're going to do, okay, sorry. I gave her the wrong direction.
So I'll just, please sit.
Okay, I'll sit.
So before I give this award, by the way, a gift, I wanted to say a few things, by the way. This was wonderful. Much of what you were saying were gems, actually, in terms of the one thing that I wanted to mention when he said is ask lots of questions. Right? You don't get the answers until you know what you want to ask. And even so, as a CPA, right, the question that for me when I'm teaching the students, it's always about, you don't have to really know all the answers, but you have to know what questions you're going to ask so that you can make sense of it. So those kind of things in terms of asking questions, networking, making a decision about, okay, do I do this or that? How do you make that kind of decision? There's one aspect of it, in all of your little sort of snippets that you talked about. You're talking about even if you're a marketing major, I don't know how many marketing majors, there's too many marketing majors that believe that you don't need to know anything about data, right? But you cannot make marketing decisions without data, right? So it doesn't matter what discipline you go into, it is a knowledge base that comes with it in terms of understanding the amount of data that you need. You also made a point about networking with people, finding mentors. I actually had a boss. I'd been there for about 4 years as an engineer, and he found out that I typically go and hide in my office every time somebody famous or someone from out of town or someone came through. And his point was, he said, you're not making the contact you need to make. So even if you have to slip and fall right in front of him, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
You get to know, you need to say something, and then engage. So in some sense, by the way, those are the things I picked up from you in terms of each of those pieces, right, was so important as I listened to it, and I said, and every time you said certain things, it said, oh, I know when it happened. Right?
Yes.
Or making a move and you're trying to learn in terms of what. So, as I earlier said, when I was an engineer some time ago, but I'm not an engineer anymore because after a few years, I said, I'm not learning very much. So if you're not learning very much in the job that you're in, you have to make a change, right? And that's when I said, okay, I'm done with this. I need to go somewhere and learn more before I decided to go pursue a master's and a PhD degree. But the learning becomes critical as you never, ever stop learning. So thank you for such a wonderful, wonderful talk that you gave, by the way. Appreciate it so much.
You're welcome.
So I want to give you a small token of appreciation. I think it goes this way, right? Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I also want to thank our wonderful moderator,
Okay.
Wendy,
Oops, sorry,
come on
I don't want to fall.
Don't fall.
No.
Oh, look here. 1, 2, and 3. Big smile.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And there's food. I know you all want food, so.
I also want to thank all the students here and the faculty and staff who are here. Thank you all for coming, and the faculty to encourage your students. These are the events that we want you to come because those are the events that sort of give you the emphasis to move forward and learn a lot from what other people have done. Thank you, Stacy, for all that.
You all.
Thank you.
Please don't forget the reception.